So the best gaming smartphone in the world just got even better with the launch of Asus's fresh new ROG Phone 6. An absolutely bonkers mad blow boasting even more grunt than ever before and all those great gaming features that you know and love. Plus naturally a shag load of bonus accessories. You can chuck even more money at Asus and make this thing even more mental. So let's whip the ROG Phone 6 on out of the box, test out those gaming chops in full, and of course the accessories. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Alright, so first of all, how do you actually get into this thing? It's possibly the most complicated box ever conceived. Just like drag these things up or something? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I think it was just a bit stiff, that's all. Oh, Jesus, this thing's like a miniature space coffin or something. I feel like I should be giving this phone last rites. Anyway, there you go, there's the actual ROG Phone 6. And in the back end of the compartment where the phone was housed, you've got a very funky pokey pin to get your SIM in there. And Asus has also bunged in a free hard shell protective cover. And then in yet another compartment inside of the space coffin, you've got an absolute beast of an adapter. And a sexy bit of Type-C to Type-C USB cable action as well with a lovely tough fabric cover. And that seems to be everything contained within. And of course, if you've got a hamster, the fuzzy wee bugger kicks the bucket. Well, just stick the corpse inside of this box, attach it to a firework and give it a proper space burial. All right, so now it's time to get the ROG Phone 6 all set up. Very dramatic. Oh, I love it. It's bloody setup process and also a mini disco. But it comes crashing to a halt when you hit the Wi-Fi setup, unfortunately. I was just about to get my glow sticks out. Okay, so we've done all the boring setup process stuff and now we're on to some other bollocks. How's that little fella? Alright, well, certainly feeling the bass off this thing. Okay, it's telling me to scan a card. This is actually found inside the lid on the ROG Phone 6 box.
Oh no! Enemy attack! Eliminate intruders!
What? I honestly feel like I'm on all of the crack right now. That was easy.
Mission accomplished! You did it!
Yay! Oh, what now? Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, I've got to take a selfie with the wee fella now, I guess. So let's properly start with the design. And the ROG Phone 6 Pro, to put it politely, is a bit of a fucking brick. It weighs 239 grams, one of the heaviest smartphones I've ever clutched in my entire existence, and it's over a centimetre thick. Make no mistake, this is a proper full-on unit. And yeah, you do properly feel that heft as well when you're simply clutching the phone one-handed, using it as a smartphone. But the good news is, when you are holding it in landscape mode, doing a good bit of gaming, that weight is nicely balanced. Now, the ROG Phone 6 Pro doesn't feel top-heavy or anything. It's very comfortable to clutch like this, helped by the rounded edges and corners. And the bezels surrounding that display are pretty chunky on the whole, although the good thing about the top bezel being quite chunky is the fact that it houses that selfie cam so you don't get any kind of any kind of notch or selfie orifice is what I meant to say. Apologies to anyone living in Norwich, got nothing against you lads. Around the back end of the ROG Phone 6 Pro, it's a frosted glass finish, and Asus has gone all out for the design this time. Even in the regular models, they all look more like some kind of alien sex toy than an actual smartphone. With the regular model of the ROG Phone 6, you've got a choice of two colours, Stormy White, otherwise Phantom Black, but if you go for the Pro model, this only comes in white. And as you can see there, lots of flair and frills. It's kind of a sensory overload, to be perfectly honest. You've got various logos and other little bits of text, and you've got the ROG slogan here, for those who dare. And then, of course, as this is a gaming smartphone, you've got the obligatory light-up elements. In the case of the regular ROG Phone 6, you've just got a standard light-up RGB logo, but that's swapped out here on the Pro model for a teeny PMOLED display again. This can pump out all kinds of jazzy, if somewhat unnecessary, animations. For instance, when you enter X mode, when you connect an external accessory, etc, etc. And it can also notify you as to how charged the battery is when you've got it plugged in, and also if you've got any incoming calls. And any of these various options can be quickly and easily disabled as well if you decide you don't want that happening. And also just above that PMOLED display, you've got the Dare to Play logo, which can again light up in a variety of charming little colours. And this is fully customizable. You can change up the exact color, saturation levels, brightness levels, suit your own particular tastes. Again, completely and utterly pointless, but rather lovely all the same. I do like some of the other subtle little design elements in here as well. The fact you've got this lovely blue tint surrounding the power button as well, just to have it stand out a little bit. And hopefully the ROG Phone 6 and this Pro model should prove to be reasonably rugged as well. You've got a Gorilla Glass Victus display. My only worry there is that it might scratch up a bit easily because Victus does tend to, but hopefully should prove shatterproof if you do drop the bugger, considering how big and hefty it is. Around back it is only Gorilla Glass 3, but hopefully that lovely frosted white finish should help to cover up any sort of like scuffs and scratches anyway. And this ROG Phone is actually IPX4 rated as well, making it slightly splash resistant as well, so good news if you happen to be gaming in the middle of a rainstorm. Now on the software side, the ROG Phone 6 series is naturally running the latest, freshest Android 12. And when you first set up your smartphone, you're given a choice between the ROG UI and the Zen UI. The Zen UI is a very stock version of Android, doesn't really mess with the aesthetics and everything too much. Whereas here in the ROG UI, of course, you've got that more gaming aesthetic. The icons, the colors, everything is very much in your face. Naturally, you get a selection of rather jazzy wallpapers chucked on here as well. This includes some animated affairs, of course, where it's all kicking off. And yes, there is a theme store as well you can dive on into and download all kinds of bonkers bat mental efforts if you fancy a bit of that. And I also very much approve of how very little crapware Asus has chucked on this thing as well. It's pretty much just your standard Google stuff, a couple of bonus Asus bits, and that's it. Unfortunately, Asus isn't quite as committed as I would have preferred when it comes to the OS and security updates, guaranteeing a couple of years of both, basically here on the ROG Phone 6 and the ROG Phone 6 Pro. And seeing how this phone has more than enough grunt to hopefully last you several years, let alone just a couple, I'm kind of hoping that they do bump it up another Android OS level or two, but we'll have to wait and see on that front. As for the storage, where you got up to half a terabyte depending on which model of the ROG Phone 6 you go for, this is the 512GB model right there. No space for a micro SD memory card on the SIM tray, but at least hopefully shouldn't run out of space anytime soon. But anyway, as this is a gaming smartphone, let's do a bit of bloody gaming. And what you'll want to do when you're ready for action is boot up the Armoury Crate app. The Armoury Crate is essentially a hub for all of your gaming shenanigans. You've got fast access to your entire games library. You can actually fine-tune the performance settings and all the other various gaming tools as well for each game. As always, this is incredibly in-depth. You can piddle about with the performance settings, the display, including the refresh rate and also the sensitivity. And you've also got some networking settings, which is particularly handy for games like PubG, Call of Duty, where of course they are online titles. In here you can also customize the ROG Vision display around back and the system lighting, as I showed you earlier. And you can set up the various accessories as well, which we'll touch on in a bit. You've also got a portal to ROG Connect, an online community, and you've got various game recommendations in here as well if you're a bit bored of your current titles. And when you're done messing around, just tap whatever you fancy having a game on and it'll load right up. Now, when you're actually in a game, of course, if you want to change any of those game settings at all, you don't have to worry about exiting the game, going back into the Armoury Crate. What you do is you just yank out the game Genie with a quick swipe down from one of the top corners. And for any children of the 90s out there, no, this doesn't allow you to massively cheat your way through any game that you play, but it does give you a bit of a leg up by offering you all those fantastic tools. And yeah, this thing is pretty dense. There's a lot to get your head around, especially when you realize you can actually scroll your way through both of these little menus here. And there's a pretty comprehensive setup as well. You've got your notifications block and all that good stuff. You can bring up all kinds of real-time information on screen. You can add a crosshair to the display if you want to. You can record a macro, all kinds of stuff. And this is also where you quickly and easily flick between the different performance modes. Say you're playing a game that isn't ultra demanding on the resources, you'll probably just want to chuck the phone into the ultra durable mode, which extends the battery life. Or if you're playing a proper resource guzzler like Genshin Impact, then you'll want to stick it all the way up into the X mode. Or if you want complete customization, there's also an advanced mode where you can manually tweak the various settings. Frankly, there's absolutely shagloads of different bits here to get your head around, and it is quite a lot to take in. But one feature you'll definitely want to take full advantage of is the AirTriggers. Because while some gaming smartphones have proper physical shoulder buttons just on the edge of the device, here on the ROG Phone 6 series you've got a couple of ultrasonic sensors. These touch sensitive areas basically act like shoulder buttons on a game's controller, and they're very easy to set up. Just basically drag these little on-screen icons to the corresponding on-display controls that you want them to activate every time they're tapped. These AirTriggers are also swipe sensitive as well, so for instance, instead of just tapping them, you can have them perform different actions depending on whether you swipe one direction or the other. So if I swipe right, this dude will blast some frozen ice stuff, and if I swipe left, he'll perform his special move. Seems like you can't have both the taps and the swipes active at the same time though, it's got to be either one or the other. And as always, those AirTriggers work beautifully well here on the ROG Phone 6 series. Just add an extra level of convenience when you're playing with a really complex title like Genshin Impact. Got a display full of virtual buttons which are very fiddly and easy to miss in the heat of battle when things get pretty intense. Those shoulder buttons just work beautifully, perfectly responsive, nice bit of haptic feedback from them. And also a lifesaver in the likes of Call of Duty as well, where once again, it's very easy to miss those virtual buttons when somebody just springs up in front of you and startles the shit out of you. Just map the left one to aim, the right one to fire, job done. Of course, if you want to, you can always take it to the next level by purchasing the ROG Kunai 3 gamepad. This is a specially crafted controller designed specifically for the ROG Phone 6, and it can be wielded in a variety of ways. First off though, what you'll need to do is dive back into good old Game Genie, and this time around you want the key mapping tool. And then you just set this up exactly as you did with the AirTriggers, dragging the buttons onto the on-screen controls that you want to map them up to. And then happy joy, you've got a proper console style experience. You can be slashing those slimes effortlessly. Asus has absolutely loaded this thing with buttons. You've even got a couple of rear paddles you can mess around with. So yeah, job well and truly done. And if you want to, you can also clip the Kunai gamepad into this handy little housing. Just adds some extra grip to it, makes it a bit more comfortable to clutch. Or you can also grab a dedicated case for the phone which allows you to attach these two separate controller pieces to it either side and just clutch it like a Nintendo Switch, which again, nice and comfy and easy, especially if you're on the move and you don't have anywhere you can prop up the phone. And if you already happen to have an Xbox, a Stadia or a PS4 controller knocking about the place, well, Asus will also do you a clip to attach your ROG Phone 6 to that controller instead. And hopefully there'll actually be a PS5 version of that sometime soon as well. Now the almighty display that Asus has slapped here on the ROG Phone 6 series is once again a 6.67 inch Super AMOLED panel crafted by Samsung. It's completely flat as you would expect from a gaming phone. As I mentioned before, no selfie notches or orifices or other blemishes. It's a proper full view experience. Those visuals are nice and crisp, the contrast is super sharp as you'd expect from an AMOLED panel, got full HDR10 Plus support on here, and also apparently improved color calibration, making it more accurate than previous panels, covering 150% of the sRGB gamut. Doesn't really make much difference when you're gaming, but I guess it's good news if you also want to edit your photos on this thing. One upgrade is the refresh rate, which now tops off at 165Hz compared with the previous generation's 144Hz. As you can see there, you can leave it in auto mode, otherwise you can scale it between one of 5 different levels. The ROG Phone 6 series also supports 720Hz touch refresh, and I've got to say I did notice that the sensitivity was a bit all over the place when I first played Genshin Impact. Sometimes it would take several pokes to pick up an item or start a challenge, for instance. However, thankfully, the Game Genie menu allows you to manually tweak the screen sensitivity, and by bumping it up, I did solve that problem immediately. And both the ROG Phone 6 and the ROG Phone 6 Pro sport a stereo speaker setup with full-on audio tuning by Dirac once again. And these absolutely do the job when you're gaming. They're front-firing speakers, so you get that proper stereo effect. You don't even need to worry about slapping on a headset unless you're in a particularly noisy environment or whatever. And here's just a quick sample of the audio from those speakers. Crammed inside of that shiny shell. To stand out from the crowd even more so than it already is with that crazy, funky diagonal line design. So loud, powerful, punchy audio on that top volume, nice and crisp, doesn't get all tinny even when you bump it up to the maximum levels. So yeah, once again, a cracker. But if you want to get connected to some headphones, you do actually have a headphone jack. Hip hip huzzah, one of the few premium smartphones in 2022 that offers that option besides the likes of the Xperia 1. And the Bluetooth connectivity is just as sound as well, with full support for the likes of LDAC, aptX, all that good stuff. Now powering the ROG Phone 6 and the ROG Phone 6 Pro is the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, making these among the very first smartphones to rock an upgraded version of Qualcomm's flagship mobile chipset. That's backed by either 12, 16 or 18 gigs of DDR5 RAM. I've got the maxed out 18 gig model right here, and as you can see, pretty friggin' impressive benchmarking scores. These were achieved with the X mode active, so all of the phone's resources really plowing into getting the best possible results. And yeah, it's probably not going to be a massive shock when I tell you that the likes of Genshin Impact, even when you bump it up to the maximum detail set in 60 FPS, plays absolutely flawlessly. You've got Asus's upgraded GameCool 6 cooling system surrounding the Snapdragon platform. You got graphite sheets, you got a massive vapor chamber, bit of boron nitride in there for. And yeah, sure, the ROG Phone 6's back end did still get hot after around half an hour of Genshin Impact. With that X mode active, it wasn't quite uncomfortable enough to clutch though, however, and it didn't seem to affect the performance at all. And that internal temperature seemed to top off at around 45 degrees and just kind of stick there. And if you do fancy gaming all afternoon long, you're getting a little bit concerned about those thermals, well, you can always spunk even more money at Asus for the AeroActive Cooler 6. Again, kind of looks like some sort of extraterrestrial crotch accessory, but hey-ho. Now you don't need to worry about dangling cables between the phone and this thing to turn it on. As you can see there, it's got a little USB Type-C connector down at the bottom edge. And that just slots right into the edge-mounted USB port here on the ROG Phone 6. Something like this. There we go. And then once it's inserted, as you can see there, immediately kicks into life. And of course, there's more glowing RGB shenanigans. Why wouldn't there be? You can customize the AeroActive Cooler inside that ROG Armoury Crate. And as you can see there, it's not just a case of on or off. There are different cooling options. You do actually have a wee chip hidden away inside the cooler, which tells it exactly how hot the phone is and gives it a kick up the arse if things are getting a bit toasty. Or otherwise, you can manually override the auto mode and have the cooler either blasting at a gentle pace or full on if you really want to. And yes, surprise, surprise, you can fully customize the lighting on this thing as well if you want to. And I gotta say, I did really like the AeroActive Cooler 6. It is flipping enormous, adds a lot of bulk onto the smartphone, but thankfully not much extra weight, probably just as well. The fans actually aren't too noisy unless you're in a deathly silent room, so probably best not used in bed at night if you've got somebody laying next to you trying to actually get some kip. But certainly does its job well, keeps the ROG Phone 6 and the ROG Phone 6 Pro nice and cool, even under intense duress. And the cooler even adds 4 extra buttons on the back end there for easily accessible paddles that you can again map to whatever on-screen actions you like. The ROG Phone 6 and 6 Pro both boast Wi-Fi 6E and a triple antenna arrangement, plus of course 5G support, and this smartphone can intelligently choose between your mobile connection and your Wi-Fi connection to choose whichever is best at the given moment. Unfortunately, yes, this does mean you can't just quit out of Call of Duty Mobile in a bit of a huff, claiming that the network connection dropped when things weren't quite going your way. And as with the ROG Phone 5S, you've got a dual 3000 mAh battery setup here, so 6000 mAh total capacity. And this provides pretty bloody good returns. With maxed out graphics, the X mode switched on, etc, etc, I found I got just over 3 hours of Genshin Impact action, or just over 6 hours of Call of Duty Mobile action from a full charge. When it's time to power the ROG Phone 6 or the 6 Pro back up again, you've got 65 watt wired charging support, and of course it's a dual USB setup as well, so you can actually just plug it into this bottom edge here, and then you've got the cable dangling straight down when you are gaming, so it's not getting right in your way, pushing your hand out away from the smartphone. And like most gaming smartphones out there, when you do plug it in, there is a bypass charging option, so the battery won't actually charge up, the phone will just stay powered up. This prevents the phone from overheating too badly. So let's finish up this ROG Phone 6 series unboxing with a squint at that rear camera tech. And the main sensor is now a 50 meg Sony IMX766, which is a great option. This is the same sensor used by the likes of the Oppo Find X5 series, the Realme GT2, and the 9 Pro Plus. So basically you can guarantee good looking pictures in most conditions as long as you don't try anything too outlandish. And here's just a few sample test shots that I snapped around the homestead just to give you an idea of what the ROG Phone 6 series is capable of. And the camera UI is fairly straightforward. You can drag down some extra options like so and then swap between all of the various camera modes, of which there are many, with a quick swipe left or right. And as well as that 50 meg primary sensor, you've also got a 13 meg ultra wide angle shooter if you want a more pulled back view, and also a 5 megapixel macro snapper. If you want to shoot some video, you can do that at 4K Ultra HD resolution at 30 or 60 frames per second. You can also bump all the way up to 8K resolution at 24 FPS. Unfortunately, pre-launch the video quality is questionable at best, with bulky colors and some serious audio issues at times as well, but that should be fixed in an update soon. And last up around front is a 12 meg Sony IMX663 sensor for all your selfie shenanigans. Again, should prove absolutely fine for snapping that lovely mug of yours, whether you're indoors or out, as long as you don't go too crazy with the background lighting and such forth. And you can shoot up to 4K resolution video using that selfie camera if you do want to do a bit of your vlogging, a bit of your Twitch streaming, or whatever it is you kiddywinks get up to these days. And that right there, my lovelies, in a glorious little game in a nutshell, is the ROG Phone 6 Pro. Not an absolutely essential upgrade over the previous generation. You've of course got that Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 now, which is one beefy mofo. And the overall experience has improved. You've got the splash resistance now, for instance. You've got that dependable camera tech, and it is an absolute media monster as always as well. So even if you just kick about with some Disney Plus or whatever on the side when your thumbs get a bit tired from the old Call of Duty action, well, it'll do the job nicely. But anyhow, that's what I think. What do you guys reckon of the ROG Phone 6 and the ROG Phone 6 Pro? Are you tempted? It'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!